The night before my 100-year-old great-grandpa died, the bobcat came back. After 83 years, it said goodbye. My great-grandpa, Earl, lives in a quiet cabin near the Appalachian Mountains, surrounded by woods and memories. He's 99 now, almost a century old, and his eyes are like faded blue glass, still sharp, but carrying the weight of many winters. Every fall, I go up to visit him. It's our tradition. We sit on the porch with steaming mugs of sweet tea, wrapped in thick flannel, watching the trees turn gold and fire red. He tells stories, some funny, some sad, and then there's the one. The story. He doesn't tell it every year. Only when the air feels right and the wind whistles through the trees a certain way. This year, as the sun dipped low behind the hills and the air carried the crisp bite of October, Grandpa Earl leaned toward me. His hand trembled as he gripped the edge of his old rocking chair. "You remember Shadow Claw?" he asked, voice rough as tree bark. I nodded. Of course, I remembered. It wasn't just a tale to me, it haunted my dreams since the first time he told it when I was a kid. But now, he seemed different. As if he needed to tell it. I was only 16, he began. Winter of 1948. Coldest winter we'd had in years. The snow was so thick it swallowed fence posts and silenced everything but the wind. He paused to take a breath, staring out at the woods like he could see the past coming toward him through the trees. Our dog, Betsy, went missing that night. She'd never run off before. Mama cried and prayed. Papa said we'd find her by morning. But something felt wrong, like the woods were hiding something. He wrapped the blanket tighter around his shoulders. I grabbed a lantern and set out before dawn. I didn't tell anyone. I just knew I had to go. The forest back then was wilder, he said. Untouched. Thick with bramble and mystery. He followed Betsy's tracks for almost a mile before they disappeared, replaced by something else. Biggest paw prints I've ever seen, Grandpa said. For toes, spread wide, sunk deep into the snow. Whatever made them wasn't just big, it was heavy. And fast. His voice dropped lower. I should have turned back. But I was too stubborn, or too stupid. He followed the prints deeper into the forest, every step cracking the silence. Then, he heard something, low, deep, and rumbling like thunder buried beneath the snow. A growl. Grandpa froze behind a tree and peeked around its trunk. And there it was. Shadow Claw, he whispered. A bobcat, but not like any you've seen in books. He was bigger than a man. His shoulders were as high as my chest. Gray fur with black streaks. Eyes like lanterns, bright gold, glowing in the snow light. The creature stood in a small clearing. And at its feet, was Betsy. But she wasn't dead. She was alive. Curled up against its front legs, tail wagging, like it was her protector. Grandpa's voice shook. That beast didn't harm her. Didn't growl at her. It watched over her. He said he watched for maybe 2 minutes, his heart racing. Then Shadow Claw turned its head, slowly, right toward him. Our eyes locked, he said. And I swear to you, he nodded. Just once. Then he vanished. No sound. No flash of fur. Just gone. When Grandpa reached the clearing, Betsy came running into his arms, safe and unharmed. But Shadow Claw had left something behind, prints that circled the dog, like a guardian. He followed them for a while, but they disappeared at the river's edge. When he returned home with Betsy, his father didn't believe the story. No one did. They said the snow had messed with his head. But Betsy never left the yard again. For years, Grandpa Earl kept the memory to himself. But something changed when he turned 70. He started telling the story, not just to family, but to anyone who would listen. Some laughed, he said. Some nodded politely. But a few looked like they'd seen him too. And now, at 99, he tells it like a man preparing for something final, like the truth needs to live on, even after he's gone. I don't care if folks think I'm crazy, he told me that night. Shadowclaw was real. And he wasn't just a bobcat. He was a watcher. A guardian of the forest. Maybe the last of his kind. That night, I couldn't sleep. His words echoed in my head. The next morning, I asked Grandpa if the clearing still existed. He smiled faintly. It's still there. About 2 miles north of the river bend. You can find it if you listen to the wind. The next morning, the air felt colder. The trees stood still, like they were holding their breath. I packed a backpack with water, a flashlight, and a strip of beef jerky, not for me, but for, well, I didn't know. Maybe instinct. Maybe I just wanted to believe the story was more than a tale. I told Grandpa I was heading out for a walk. He nodded slowly, as if he knew where I was going before I did. The forest near Grandpa's home is thick and quiet. No traffic, no voices. Just the crunch of leaves and the occasional cry of a hawk overhead. I moved carefully, watching for old landmarks Grandpa had mentioned. An oak tree split by lightning. A mossy stump shaped like a bear. A shallow stream that curved like a horseshoe. It took nearly an hour, but I found the riverbend he talked about. And just beyond it, was the clearing. The snow was long gone, replaced by fallen leaves and tall grass, but something about the place felt different. The air was heavier. The quiet deeper. I stood still, afraid to move, as if the trees were watching me. I walked to the center of the clearing and looked around. Nothing but trees and brush. But then I noticed something. A large stone, partly buried in the ground, covered with lichen. It looked ordinary, until I stepped closer and saw scratch marks. Deep gouges in the rock, 3 long lines, curved like claws. It could have been nothing. Maybe a bear, maybe weather. But my gut said otherwise. I took out the beef jerky and placed it gently on the stone. I don't know if you're real, I whispered. But if you are, thank you. For saving Betsy. For watching over Grandpa. Then I turned to leave. I hadn't taken 5 steps when I heard it. A growl. Not close. Not loud. But deep, so deep it vibrated through the ground. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I turned around. Nothing. But something was there. I could feel it. My skin tingled. My heart raced. The clearing seemed darker, the shadows deeper. Then I saw it, just for a second. Golden eyes. They blinked once and vanished into the trees. I didn't run. I don't know why. Maybe I was too stunned. Or maybe, deep down, I knew I wasn't in danger. I walked back slowly, looking over my shoulder every few steps. That night, I told Grandpa everything. He smiled, not surprised, not shocked, but proud. He's still out there, he whispered. He watched you like he watched me. Why would he show himself now? I asked. Because he knows the story's not over, Grandpa said. And he knows you're ready. Ready for what, he didn't say. But I felt something had changed between us. The story he carried for 83 years was no longer his alone. Now it belonged to both of us. A week later. It was evening. I was helping Grandpa close up the shed when he paused and looked toward the trees. "You hear that?" he said. I listened. "Nothing." "Exactly," he said with a soft chuckle. "When the forest goes silent, he's near." I shivered. Not from fear, but from something else. The feeling you get when you realize a myth might be real, and it's not a monster, but something ancient. A protector. 2 nights later, I set up a trail camera near the clearing. Just in case. When I returned 3 days later to check it, I found the jerky was gone again. And something even stranger, the camera had been turned around. Not knocked over. Not broken. Turned. Facing the opposite direction. I played the footage later that night. There was nothing on it, except near the end. A shadow. Large. Moving through the trees. Too fast to be a bear. Too smooth to be a deer. I froze the frame. The outline was clear. Broad shoulders. A low, feline body. And what looked like pointed ears. I printed the image and showed it to Grandpa. He didn't say a word for a long time. Then he nodded. "That's him." The next morning, I found a small gift on the porch. A feather. Black with a silver tip. Not from any bird I recognized. And next to it, a paw print. In the dirt. It wasn't deep. It wasn't fresh. But it was there. Larger than any bobcat. Larger than a wolf. "He came here," I whispered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the porch for hours, hoping, waiting. But Shadowclaw didn't return. Or maybe, he did. And I just wasn't ready to see him again. It happened on the coldest night of the year. The sky was clear, filled with stars so bright they looked close enough to touch. The trees creaked under the weight of frost. I had just settled into bed at Grandpa's place when I heard it. 3 knocks. Not on the door. On the porch railing. Firm. Spaced out. Intentional. I jumped up, heart racing, and peeked through the window. Nothing but moonlight and shadows. I opened the door slowly. The cold rushed in like a wave. And there, just at the edge of the steps, stood something. Tall. Still. Silent. He wasn't in full view, just enough for me to make out the curve of a feline back, the shimmer of silver-gray fur, and those unmistakable golden eyes. Shadowclaw. He didn't growl. Didn't run. He just stared, as if waiting for something. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded photo, one I'd taken from the trail cam. I held it up. "You remember him, don't you?" I said softly. "Earl. He's still here. Still remembers you." The great bobcat blinked once. And then, he turned his head toward the side of the house. I followed his gaze. The porch light flickered. And then, Grandpa's door opened. Slowly, carefully, the old man stepped outside in his robe, leaning heavily on his cane. His eyes adjusted to the light. At first, he said nothing. Then, in a voice cracked with age but filled with warmth, he said, "It's been a long time, old friend." Shadowclaw didn't move. Grandpa took one small step forward. Thank you, he said. A long silence passed between man and beast. Then Shadowclaw gave a slow, graceful nod, just like Grandpa said he had done all those years ago. And vanished into the woods. No sound. No trail. Only a lingering warmth in the air where he had stood. The morning after Grandpa Earl looked brighter than I'd seen him in years. As if a weight had been lifted. He came to say goodbye, he told me. I think, he waited until he knew someone else would carry the story. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Because I knew he was right. A year later Grandpa passed peacefully that spring. He was 100 years old. At his funeral, I told the story. All of it. Some smiled politely. Others listened with wide eyes. One man, an old trapper, came up to me afterward and whispered, "I've seen him too. Long time ago. You're not alone." That fall, I returned to the clearing. This time, I brought my daughter. She's only 8, but she already loves animals and stories just like I did at her age. We placed a fresh piece of meat on the same stone. And just before we left, she tugged my sleeve. "Daddy," she said, pointing toward the trees. "Look. There, far off, just between two oaks, two golden eyes. Watching."